how can we as scholars in education best combat racism and the social injustice in our country?
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and I didn't go to school with white people until college. So all of the schools that I attended were predominantly Black.
And I think that this is a great opportunity. I think it's very timely given the space that we're in as a nation.
I grew up in a very small town in the Midwest. I was very recently introduced to diversity at all in my life. There was not much.
People aren't having these real conversations. Hey everyone, I am Jamie Frederick, and we are 4 graduate researchers from Mercer University, and this is our big idea. This is a podcast video series called Realize to Make Learning Real. And we are focusing the series on a question: how can we as scholars in education best combat racism and the social injustice in our country?
Yeah, Jamie, that's fantastic. So hello everyone, I'm Stacy Young-Rivers, and I am in the PhD program at Mercer University as well. My focus is educational leadership, focusing on higher ed, and I'm very excited about this project.
Hello, everyone. I am Ty Jenkins. I am in the PhD program for curriculum and instruction as well. My research interest lies in the underrepresentation of African Americans in STEM education and also their resilience, so how they overcome obstacles as they're on that journey to STEM fields. And I think that this is a great opportunity. I think it's very timely given the space that we're in as a nation. And so I'm very excited to participate in this series.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I'm Caitlin Hokuley. I'm also in the PhD program doing curriculum instruction. And my focus is also STEM science education. And I've realized even though I'm still a beginning educator, that I really want to figure out how to provide more equal opportunities in my classroom and learn more about the difficulties that all my students are facing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
I should say Dr. Jamie Frederick, right?
So I just defended my dissertation, thanks to you guys for all my support through that, and really pumped about being in the curriculum instruction program, in the curriculum instruction field. But my specialty is a little bit more math. You heard Caitlin and Ty with that science side and STEM, and Stacy, just tell us a little bit about how you mixed in with us, because you have a really unique perspective.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Jamie. My background is in technology. So I work for Warner Media, which is formerly Turner Broadcasting, and I've always worked in the technology division, focused on L&D, learning and development for technologists. And so it's really been a pleasure to really kind of come with my business background into the world of academia in this PhD program. That's been really exciting for me.
And you really brought a lot to our team. You know, we're a STEM research team, and so that technology piece is huge. This podcast wouldn't have happened without you. So we really love that.
Well, let's talk about that, how this podcast came about and the acronym REAL. Jamie, this was your brainchild. So how did that come about?
Oh, my brainchild, but I am pumped because without you guys, we wouldn't be here and getting there. But we are keeping it real. I mean, the world that we're in right now, between the light on the social injustice that we're finding and the fight that all of us have been fighting all along, and now in this program realizing we want to do more along with this COVID-19 global pandemic, it's crazy. And I'm finding that people aren't having these real conversations. And I found myself just saying to you guys, y'all, we need to be real. We need to be raw. We need to talk about it. And what does that mean? I think, Ty was like, what do you mean? I know what real and raw means, but what does that mean to you? And I'm like, well, let's respect each other. Let's have engaging conversations. Let's ask questions of other people. Let's learn more. I mean, I learn more from you guys every day, and there's more than just us out there. We need to go beyond us. We need to see those experts in the field and learn from them. And most importantly, just continue to learn. I'm a white cisgender female, and I need to continue to learn about everything, about anti-racism, about abolitionist teaching, about culturally relevant pedagogy, just building that learning piece every day. If we're not learning, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
So through real, respect, engage, ask, learn, that's the goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, Ty, you're a science teacher, right?
Hmm.
What grade do you teach, and why do you think this is important?
So I'm teaching third and fourth grade science, but I have more background in high school and an urban environment. And I think this is especially important because it gives me the perspective not only from colleagues and from classmates, but I'm also hearing, it come from different people in the field. And so I appreciate that because it gives me the perspective of many. And so, you know, given the time that we're in, to be able to be an effective teacher, one that is, culturally aware of what's going on and how to best deliver that in my classroom, I wouldn't know how to access that information. And so the idea of this podcast to be able to navigate through these times via conversation is very, very valuable.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What about you, Caitlin?
So I grew up in a very small town in the Midwest. I was very recently introduced to diversity at all in my life. There was not much where I grew up, and the conversations really didn't happen, and we didn't know how to have them. And even through college, it still wasn't a conversation, even though there was more diversity. So actually moving to Georgia was a big wake-up call, and then realizing I didn't know how to enter that conversation. I didn't know how to ask questions, and I'm still learning every day. And I, especially in my school, it's rural Georgia. I was very surprised how diverse it was, even entering education. And then all of a sudden now I am supposed to be here as a voice for things I don't understand. So every day trying to learn a little bit more and be better for my students and for really our country and the times that we're in.
I love how just honest you are and transparent you are with us, because that's the piece of this, is that we are still learning and we're engaging in these conversations, and you just learn, right? You just keep going. And so I love that our group right here is transparent, and our reason and our why. And that's kind of the goal of all this. So Stacey, you want to kind of talk about how we're going to do this?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Jamie. So I think one thing we need to make sure that we share is that we're all graduate researchers in the Mercer STEM Education Innovation Lab, which is led by Dr. Justin Ballinger. And this is a great opportunity because I didn't realize the experiences that I was going to have in such a short time being a part of this SEI lab. And so meeting you guys and just the collaboration that we've had to this point has just been amazing. So I'm really excited for the future of this lab. And one of the things that is especially exciting is this alternative approach that we're taking to creating a central research question and talking with experts in the field to really look at how we're impacting the world. And so as part of that, the structure that we agreed upon is that we would essentially create this and use this platform like a mini dissertation. Would you say that's essentially what we're attempting here?
That's the goal.
So we kind of came up with our methodology, our central research question, like all the pieces that we've learned over the past, few years we've been doing the scholarly research. And now we're applying that in this particular venue. So I think we'll get started with really, Jamie, you talked about the central research question, which is really, it sets the tone for the guests that we're going to interview during this podcast series. And that central research question again is,
It's how can we as scholars in education best combat racism and the social injustice in our country? And I think part of the reason we wanted to have this conversation is because, like you're saying, Stacey, we are researchers in the field. And with experiences, whether we grew up in a diverse area or it's new to us now, we're recognizing that we need to recognize it and we need to have these conversations. But when the Twitter feed is done and Instagram hashtags aren't populating all the time, what happens next? We don't want that conversation to stop. And so let's do this dissertation like podcast. Hey, we're in the 21st century, right? Why not? Idea like methodology to learn from those experts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and Caitlin said something a little while ago that made me think. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and I didn't go to school with white people until college. So all of the schools that I attended were predominantly Black. And so for me, when I got to college and I started to develop friends that were other ethnicities, it was amazing to me because I felt like I had missed out on something. Like there was all this rich experience that I was now having as a college student that I did not growing up. And I was just like, wow, like this is amazing. And so I think that, while you hear the term diversity, I think it's a blanket term. I think it's, it's used a lot, but I think it doesn't do justice to the experiences that people are missing out on when they don't understand what that word really means and how to engage with people of other ethnicities. Would you say?
Yeah.
I would agree. And actually, I got to give a little shout out to my high school because they did a great job. I had a moment in high school in this small town where I realized I was the only white girl in my groups and in my classes. And that was probably one of the biggest learning experiences of my time in like being able to actually have conversations that were scary in other situations, but actually very open and very, and like people want to share about their cultures and where they come from. And by listening, even if you sometimes ask the wrong question, if you're willing to learn from that, like that's really the end goal, is being able to take from those experiences and do better for your community and your world and yourself. Like I want to do better for everybody around me. So I agree with that.
Yeah, and if I can just embarrass Jamie a little bit, we all had the pleasure of sitting in on her defense. And what I loved about your dissertation, Jamie, was how you honed in on the lack of diversity, if you will, right? That
Absolutely.
you found through your study. Do you want to share a little bit about that? Because I found that so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I studied 3 commonly used 4th grade mathematics textbooks, and 2 of the textbooks shared their writer team, and 1 textbook did not share the writer team, but they shared their leadership team. And 2 of the textbooks had 83.3% of the writers and leadership team were white. And on the other textbook, 90% were white. And that's out of 10 people. So there was very, very little diversity on these in the writing of in the development of these textbooks that are commonly used across our country. I mean, they were used in 45 plus states, all 3 of them. And so look at us. I can't help but to look at our 4 screens right now. We're a group of very different individuals, even from race to religion to upbringing, from what parts of the country we're from, and to imagine that the books that my kids are reading and the books that my kids are learning from are written from one voice. It like blows my mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't know if Caitlin or Ty, because I know you guys are still a little early in the process before you get to your dissertation, but have you started to hone in on kind of what you think your research area will be for your dissertation?
Yes, so my research area is going to be focusing on the underrepresentation of African American women in STEM. And so the research and the statistics show that there is a vast need for the growth of STEM careers. However, that category of women, especially from minoritized backgrounds, continues to be underrepresented. So that's the avenue that I'm going. I definitely plan to focus it a little bit more, but what the literature shows us is that the reasons why that group of students is underrepresented has to do with not being able to relate to the curriculum, not feeling supported, you know, academic or opportunity gaps rather. And so this conversation is very relevant to that, very.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Ty. Caitlin, what are you thinking about?
I'm still really early in this process, but I am really focused on one of the biggest things I notice in my classroom. Not so much, I can't speak so much to all the research I've done because it's not nearly as much as you guys, but it's really finding equal opportunities. And I notice, especially entering classrooms, how many students, especially Black students, are coming in and they say, before they even start on day one, I cannot do this. And that is the most heartbreaking thing to hear. And they're not even giving me a chance to support them or to allow, like, give them the opportunity to prove themselves. They've already made up their mind that they aren't capable because somebody told them. And I just think that is the most disheartening thing to hear as an educator. And I want to do my part to kind of fix that and hopefully support them as they continue into high school.
Yeah, I just, and with both of you, I hear a lot, you know, the opportunity gap, that's a big piece too, especially as, you know, like Stacy said, we're the STEM Education Innovation Lab at Mercer University. And there is so much research out there right now showing this opportunity gap between minority students and the white counterparts. And it's crazy, right? And so I'm just so pumped about what we're doing here because we're going to engage in some really awesome people that are coming in that is doing the research and doing the work. So, you know, in the upcoming episodes, we have educators that are going to share with us that have their grounded in research, you know, they're everything that we can learn from. And then we have also educators that are grounded in research that have also doing the work and putting it out there and can teach us ways that we as graduate researchers can step up. So like it's the opportunity gap. It's moving from the terminology of achievement gap to why is there an achievement gap? Mm-hmm. Let's look at the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And, you know, while I'm still really kind of working through my theoretical framework for my dissertation, I do know that I am looking at the perception of technical skills for first generation college students. And the reason why I honed in on that area, because working in a technology organization, you guys have probably heard of the term, you know, the global skills gap. Well, what that says essentially is that academia has kind of not held up their end of the bargain for graduating students that meet requirements for employers. And so while we have these gaps in different parts of technology, we also identify the fact that I think some people aren't even applying themselves because they don't know or they don't understand how, or they're not given the means to. And so while I'm starting at one end of the spectrum, my goal is to really look at the perception of what African-American students think about technical skills, because they could have some idea that could be barriers to entry into STEM fields. And so I'm hoping to really flesh that out and hoping that it's an impactful dissertation that will aid, you know, policymakers and academia and educators.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. That research is going to be doing that. You're the model of a woman in STEM field. You know, you work in technology in the business world. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing to kind of bridge that gap between the business world and that education world.
Oh, wow. That's an awesome question. And before I get to that, I'm going to make you guys laugh. I call myself the accidental technologist because I really did not set out on a pathway in the technology. Like originally I wanted to be Oprah. And so when I applied for a job at Turner Broadcasting, my goal was to get in, you know, wherever I could fit in and then make my way over to CNN and, you know, become a journalist and somehow launch my career interviewing folks like Oprah. And I came into technology. I came into the master control area for Cartoon Network. That was my very first job. and I fell in love. I was just like, oh my God, this is so amazing how I'm able to apply my mind. It was like a puzzle. It was like solving a puzzle and keeping, you know, programs on the air and commercials. And so I stayed in technology. And so I think that with my dissertation specifically, I want to be able to unlock some of that for our students before they even get into the career part of their journey, to understand that there's the opportunities are so vast. And so some of the things that I've been exploring, you know, while I'm a professional inside of a corporate environment is, what are those outreaches that I can participate in to bridge academia and industry together to help solve some of those problems? One thing that I did recently was I am on the Georgia Department of Education Computer Science Advisory Council, where educators and industry professionals come together to solve problems like what I just described. And so I'm really excited about that particular adventure, because I think that that is one thing that feeds the passion that I have for this particular problem.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I just think all the time about how you have navigated the business world, and you have a great career, and you're doing your thing, and you came back to a PhD program in educational leadership because you wanted to learn more, but not only learn more, but learn more so that you can teach others and maybe inspire them before they get to that accidental career, right? So like
Yeah.
that, it just, you are the Oprah for me. Like,
That's funny. I love it.
the rest of us came through education through different ways. I know, Caitlin, you came through science first. And
I actually went to school up in New York I started engineering, and then I realized quickly that I wasn't getting, I mean, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but I wasn't getting the support I needed to stay in that field. And then when I switched to science, I started finding opportunities to start education, and I realized I really wanted to support, I mean, I wanted to support myself so that I would have stuck through it. And then coming down here and starting education, I realized how many students were in the same boat, but earlier. And that even in high school, they were struggling to even realize their potentials for further education or further career opportunities. So that's really why I stuck, like I'm still here.
well, and I love that you do same same idea as Stacy, is trying to kid them early, try to catch them early, say, look, STEM is for you, right? STEM is for you, whether you're a female, whether you're a minority, whether you're white, Black, Hispanic, Jewish, Christian,
Right.
she, they, anything, it's for you, it's for all, right? And so,
Yeah.
Ty, you're in the elementary school. How early do you start seeing kids veer away from science instead?
Oh, so STEM identities have been shown to be formed, and so they decide, this is something I'm interested in, or no, this isn't, as early as middle school. But like I mentioned earlier, I actually started off in high school. And my reason for being so passionate about STEM and providing support for those students is because I saw myself, in those students. I'm at an urban, majority African American populated school. And so I saw, myself in them. This is what I'm interested in, but maybe I'm not getting enough support. Or this is what I'm interested in, but maybe like Caitlin's students, I can't do this. And so it was very important for me to start there, because my reason and my why was because, these students are where I was, 4 years ago. They're the first generation graduates in their family, just like I am, in mine. And so it's very important for me to make sure that those students have that support and know that, if I can do it, then so can you.
Well, I'm a first generation too.
I was about to say, I think we got first generation graduate, and now you're in a PhD program, like halfway through, and Stacy's already passed her qualifying exams, her comprehensive exams, working on her dissertation. I mean,
yeah, that's amazing.
I just think, how did we are here We have had privilege somewhere to get us to where we are, from as simple as our own drive to familiar support or a mentor somewhere. And so, that's how this started. We got here. Now it's our job to do more. How, as scholars, do we best do this?
So, Jamie, but why does that matter? What you just said, like, why does that matter?
Yeah, it matters because we don't want to be a passive voice in the world, right? Like I mentioned at the beginning, we're living in unprecedented times. We're seeing history constantly repeat itself. When is the end of that? What do we do to be a piece of that? And the first thing to do is have the conversations, and not to have conversations with like-minded individuals. Yes, we are all graduate researchers and in a STEM education innovation lab, but we all come from very different places. We all have very different perspectives to come to. And so together we are learning from one another. And even more so, we're going to learn from those experts.
Yeah.
Do this.
This is awesome. Are you guys excited? I'm excited about this journey.
Very excited.
All right. Well, let's say this. We are preparing for episode 1, and we have a great list of guests that we're going to invite to our podcast, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to say this is an exciting time to be a part of this. And so, hey guys, let's keep it real.
Let's keep it real.
Let's keep it real.
Let's keep it real.
Awesome. Yay.